Hello, welcome to part 5 of this calculator workshop, and in this part we'll be talking about one of the financial applications that your calculator has called the TVM Solver. All right, so you can use this problem when you're trying to calculate things that involve loans and investments and things like that, with interest rates and all that stuff. So to get to that, it's one of the applications on your calculator. So if you go to the Apps button, which is over there next to the Math menu, so if you hit the Apps button, and you notice you have several things on that menu, which you can explore those on your own time and see what's in there. But we're interested right now in the first one, which says Finance. So you hit Enter, and then under Finance, there's a whole bunch of stuff. And the first one there is TVM Solver, right? TVM stands for Time Value of Money, right? Which is what we're doing when we're talking about loans and investments and things like that. So we choose that first one, TVM Solver, right? So it's really easy to find the TVM Solver. It's just Apps, and then the first one, hit Enter, the first one again, hit Enter, and you're in the TVM Solver. And notice there's a whole bunch of stuff here, and this is set up for a problem I've done previously. We have an N, I%, PV, PMT, FV, PY, CY, and then PMT and begin. So a whole bunch of stuff. Now, what does all that stuff mean is written up here. So let me get out of the way so y'all can see what's written up there. The N stands for the total number of compounding periods, right? So when you have compound interest, it's compounded a certain number of times per year, and then for a certain number of years, right? So the N refers to the number of compounding periods per year times the number of years. That gives you the total number of compounding periods, right? The I% is your interest rate. Now, when you use formulas to calculate things that involve interest rates, you always have to change that interest percentage into a decimal. For the TVM solver, you enter it as a percent, right? So if your interest rate is, let's say, 6%, you would enter that for I% would just be 6. It wouldn't be 0.06. Right? So that's one thing that where the TVM solver is different from using formulas. You don't change your percentages into decimals when you're using the TVM solver. Right? PV stands for the present value. If you're investing money, the present value you enter as a negative number. If you're borrowing money, you enter that present value as a positive number. PMT stands for payment. Right? If you're paying off a loan, you enter that payment as a negative number. If you're making withdrawals from account, regular withdrawals, you enter that payment as a positive number. Right? For the FV stands for future value. Right? When you're investing money, your future value is going to be a positive number. If you're paying off a loan, your future value is equal to 0. Right? Because when you pay off a loan, eventually, when you pay it all off, you've paid it all off. You don't owe anything anymore, so your future value is equal to 0. Now, this is one of the hardest things about using the TVM solver is when to make numbers positive and when to make numbers negative. But there's a basic rule of thumb that if you follow that, it's actually pretty simple. Right? Anytime you are giving money away, whether it's when you first make an investment or when you're making payments to pay off a loan, if the money is going away from you, you enter it as negative. When the money is coming towards you, right? Like when you borrow money, you get a whole bunch of money at first, or when you're making withdrawals from an account and you're taking that money, when the money comes towards you, then it is a positive value, right? And for an investment, at the end of that investment, you're going to get that money, so your future value for the investment is a positive because that's coming towards you at the end, right? So anytime money comes towards you, you enter it as a positive number. Anytime you're giving money away, you enter it as a negative number. Right? If you keep that rule of thumb in mind, you'll know whether to enter all these for present value, future value, or payment as positives or negatives. Right? And then the PY and the CY. PY stands for the payments per year, and the CY stands for the compounds per year. Right? And those are always going to be the same number. Right? So we'll see when we do an example in a minute that when we change one of these, the other one automatically gets changed to match the one that we typed in. Right? So, payments per year is like if we're paying off a loan or something like that. The compounds per year is if we're calculating compound interest. But TVM Solver kind of sees those two things as the same. Right? So that's why they're always going to be the same number. All right, so that's what all that stuff in the TVM Solver means. Now let's see how it works when we actually do an example problem. All right, so for this first example, $5,000 is invested at 4% interest compounded quarterly. How much will it be worth after 10 years? All right, so the first thing we have to type in here, in our TVM solver is the capital N, which stands for the total number of compounding periods. Well, our interest here is compounded quarterly, right? Quarterly means 4 times per year, so it's going to be compounded 4 times per year for 10 years. right? So the total number of compounding periods in this case is going to be 40, right? 4 times per year times 10 years is going to be 40. So if you can do that in your head, you can just type in 40 here. If you're not sure, and for some of these, like if it's compounded daily and you have to multiply things by like 365, it gets a little more complicated. You don't have to figure that out. You can just type in the multiplication in that n equals, and your calculator will do it for you. So if I type in here for n equals 4 times 10, right? The quarterly, the 4 times per year times the 10 years, and then hit enter, it just makes that 40 for me, right? So you don't have to do that multiplication yourself. You just have to make sure you put in the compounding periods per year multiplied by the number of years, right? Then I equals, right? That's our percentage, right? So in this case, it's invested at 4%. Remember, for the I equals or the I percentage in the TVM solver, we don't change it to a decimal. I just enter that 4% as a 4. All right, so my I percent equals 4. Right, next up, my present value. All right, so my present value in this case, well, I'm investing $5,000. When I invest that money, that money is going away from me in the beginning. Right, I'm giving somebody else $5,000 to invest. Since that money is going away from me, I have to enter that as a negative value. Right, remember, anytime the money goes away from you, it's negative. When the money flows towards you, it's positive. Right, so my present value is negative 5,000 because when I make that investment, the money goes away from me at that beginning time. Right, so my present value is negative 5,000. My payment in this case is 0. Right, I'm not making any payments this time. I'm just upfront investing $5,000, and then I'm letting it sit there. I'm not putting like more money into it each month or each quarter or each year. Right, that's what that payment would be like. If I invest $5,000 and then every year I put more money into it, I would have to put that money I put into it into the payment. But in this case, I'm not making regular payments. I'm not making regular payments into the into the investment, and so I don't have to put anything for that payment. That's a 0. Right, my future value, well, that's what I'm trying to find this time. Right, I'm trying to figure out what my future value is. So I'm just going to skip over that for now. Right, and we'll come back to that in a second. So whatever it is you're trying to find, you don't type anything in there when you start this. All right, and then for the PY and the CY, the payments per year or the compoundings per year, well, it's being compounded quarterly. Right, quarterly means 4 times per year. So for either the PY or the CY, if I type in 4 for the PY and hit enter, look at the CY. Right, it automatically changes to 4. Right, remember those two always have to be the same number. Your calculator makes them be the same number. If you change either one of those, it automatically changes the other one to make sure it matches. Right, so we have 4 compoundings per year, so our PY and CY is equal to 4, and then we go back up to our future value. Right, so to calculate my future value, that's the thing I'm trying to find here. What I do is I need to solve for this. So I use that alpha key, which is underneath the second key. So I do alpha, and then the solve is above the enter key down at the bottom. Right, so I do alpha enter, and notice that number changed to $7,444, and if I round it, 32 cents. Right, so that's going to be the future value of this investment. Right, so again, you plug in all the stuff that you know. For the one that you're trying to solve for, after you put in all the other numbers, you go to that, you hit alpha enter, and then basically what it does is it plugs it into the formula for you and then calculates your future value in this case. Right, so my future value here was, again, just, I don't know if you were able to catch it when I said it, 7444.32. Right, that's how much that investment would be worth after 10 years. All right, so that's our first example, a pretty basic one where we're just investing a lump sum of money at a certain interest rate and then finding our future value. Right, I'm going to pause the recording here so I can write up another example, and then we'll look at some more, maybe 2 or 3 more examples if we have time for it. All right, so I put up another example here, part 2. So for this one, we're depositing $200 each month into an account that's paying 7% interest per year, compounded monthly, and we want to find the value after 43 years. Right, so I go to my TVM solver that I just had up for that last example. Now you don't have to clear all the stuff out from the previous example. You just go up to the top and just kind of type over top of what's already there for the next one you do. Right, so and the total number of compounding periods, well this time it's compounded monthly, right, so that's 12 times per year times 43 years. Right, so to do my n, it's going to be the 12 times per year times the 43 years. right? So I can just type in there 12 times 43 and hit enter, and that turns out to be 516. No, yes, 516, right? So that's my value for n. Remember, you don't have to multiply out that out yourself. You can just type in 12 times 43, and it'll do that multiplication for you, because after all, it is a calculator, right? So there's n. My I percentage, well, in this case, is paying 7% interest. So remember, don't change that to a decimal. Don't make it 0.07. Your I percent just equals 7%, right? My present value in this case, well, my present value in this case is actually 0, right? He's not investing a lump sum of money up front, like in that last example, the person just put $5,000 into it. In this case, we're doing $200 each month, right? But we're not starting with a lump sum, so the present value in this case is actually 0, right? The payment this time is the 200, right? And since we're paying the $200 each month, that money's going away from us, so I enter that as a negative 200. Right, so my payment this time is going to be negative $200. That's how much I'm paying into this account each month. All right, my future value, once again, that's what I'm trying to solve for. Right, I want to know what this future value is going to be after whatever it is, 43 years. All right, so I skip over that for now. My PY and CY, how many times per year? Well, if it's compounded monthly, that's 12 times per year. So I changed my PY to 12, which also changes the CY to 12. Right, again, those two are always the same. I go back up to what I'm trying to solve for, the future value. I hit alpha, and then I hit the enter key, and it changes that future value to $655,225.94. Right, so that's how much, if we make these $200 deposits each month for 43 years at 7% interest, after 43 years, we've got $655,000. Pretty good. All right, so that's that second example. Once again, I'm going to pause this recording and put up probably just one more we'll have time for. So I'll look for example maybe where we solve for something other than the future value, just to kind of see a little bit different way of doing it. All right, back with the third example here, the last one that we'll have time to do. Here we're going to open an IRA earning 6.5% interest compounded monthly. We want to have $1 million after 25 years. So how much do we have to deposit each month into this account? All right, so back to my TVM Solver, which has all the stuff from the last example. Remember, you don't have to clear it out. Just go back up to the N. N is the total number of compounding periods. So it's compounded monthly, so that's 12 times per year, times the number of years, which is 25 years. All right, so I do 12 times 25, which gives me 300. All right, so my N is equal to 300. My I percentage, well, the interest rate is 6.5%. Again, I don't do anything funky with the decimal point there. I just type it in as 6.5%. All right, then my present value. Well, once again, just like that last example, the present value is going to be 0. Right? They're not starting with a lump sum of money that they're investing. They're just going to make regular payments each month. All right, so my present value in this case is 0. Right? My payments, well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. We want to know how much money we have to deposit each month. That's the payment we're going to be making each month. So that's what I don't know, so I'm going to skip over that for now and come back to it to solve for that later. My future value, well, I want to have $1 million at the end of this 25 years. And since that $1 million is going to be coming towards me, right, I'm going to be collecting that money at the end. I enter that as a positive 1 million. And I just need to look at this to make sure I put enough zeros in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, 1 million has 6 zeros. So there's my $1 million future value that I want to get. Again, positive because that money is going to be coming back to me at the end. And then the last one, the PY, CY, the payments per year, the compounds per year, well, it's going to be monthly, right? They're depositing money each month. And so I put in 12, which is actually what it was before, so I really didn't need to change that. But then the CY is also 12. I'm trying to solve for the payment, so I go back up to the payment, alpha, enter, and my payment is negative 1335.40. Right? Notice the payment is negative because when I put that investment in each month, that money's going away from me, so I'm paying out $1,335.40 each month. And if I do that, I'll end up eventually with that $1 million after 25 years. All right, so that's a few examples of the TVM Solver. I hope it was helpful. And that's the end of the calculator workshop as well. So that's just how to do a bunch of stuff on the calculator, and that's certainly not everything, The calculator is a very powerful tool, so my advice is just get in there and start playing with it and see what it can do.